Hello everyone. As you can see from this text file, this is the networking lab where we're using sockets. So I'm doing it, showing you how I would do it. And we're just going to do the lab. So the first thing we're going to do is try the code. So we clone it, and I've already cloned it, and we're going to try it out, and we're going to follow the instructions in the repo. And then there's a series of instructions and questions that are in the Google Doc. And so we're going to do the first two in this video, so connecting to the server and changing the port. So if you're coming to here from YouTube instead of from my networking lab, links to the repository and the instructions will be there. So each component should be linked to the others. So let's go ahead with this. So as you can see here, I've already installed Git, and I used Git to clone the repository, and this is the repository. Let's have a look at it. This is the repository, so if we look up here, there's the information. I used my SSH key. You can use whatever you want. Sorry, that should be bigger. And as we see in the README, so it says to look at the code, and when you run the server process, it logs to something called socket log. So we're going to have a look at that. And then we're supposed to run it in the background, and it binds to 127001. So we're gonna just try this out to make sure it works. So let's go ahead with that. So first we'll take a quick look at the code. It's in Python, as you can see. There's a comment at the top, and it uses two libraries, socket and logging libraries. And then what I do is, we look down at the bottom here, is I have two variables, and I assign them the IP address and a port. And then I configure the log, so I just set it up to a specific configuration, and we'll see that in the log, and the file name is here, sockets log. And I log some information, and then I call make server with this IP and port. And as you can see, we do the standard things that I showed you. First, we need to set up a socket, and we're using internet addresses and stream is of course TCP socket, so this is a TCP socket we're creating. And then we bind to the IP and port. We tell the socket to listen, and then we wait for connection. So as soon as somebody connects, this call will return a connection and an address, and then we're going to use that connection to communicate. So we're going to send and receive. It's a simple echo server, so it just sends whatever it receives, it sends back to the sender until it gets a quit, which is here, and then it'll shut down. So we're going to run it, and the instructions say to run it in the background. So let's do server.py, and the ampersand will automatically put something in the background. Oops, sorry. So now it's running, and there's my PID. So if we use netstat, I'm not using the P because I don't want to have to use sudo. I'm going to grep my PID 112. Oops, it's not showing my PID. Actually, it'll show Python. So let's grep the port that I'm using. So here we are. This is my my process is now listening. So it's bound to port 127001, and it's listening on port 8111, and it's accepting connections from anywhere. Excuse me. So let's see what it's logged so far. Let's maybe cat it because it's not very big. So what it's done is it tells me it's bound. Okay, so now I want to communicate with it, and since we don't have a client written for us, we're just going to use netcat. So netcat-v-n, you can look up those options, please do. 127.0.0.1, so loopback, it's listening on the loopback, so we have to connect to loopback, and we have to give it a port. So it says, it's exceeded, so let's send something. And there it sends it back. So now that I'm finished, I type quit. So the socket type will take that and quit, and then I just hit enter to end my netcat session. So if I take a look to see what's going on, that's gone. My port is gone. Sorry, nobody's listening on that port because both sides have shut down. So that's good. I know that I can communicate to the server, and it's still running. Oh, sorry, it's not running. I'll have to run it again. But let's go to the instructions and answer some questions and play around with this code. So let's have a look at the instructions. So we're going to do this bit, connecting to the server. So it says run the server in the background. So we did that, but let's do it again. And it says, can you talk to it from another user on the same box? Why or why not? So I know I can talk to it as myself, but let's see what happens if I try to do it on another box. So first I have to run it. Oh, sorry, let's go into sockets. Oops, wrong user, sorry. First I have to run it. Just going back up in my history. So now it's running, and I'm going to use netstat to make sure it's running. Okay, it's running, so that's good. So now I'm going to use this other user that I have already logged on, and I'm going to see if this other user can use it. So we're going to use the same options. Looks okay. Well, so I'm going to quit and then hit enter, and then both sides will be done. So let's have a look at the other side. So let's see what's going on with netstat. So it's not listening anymore, and you notice it says done for my process. So yes, I can talk to it from another user on the same box. Why or why not? Well, why? Because they're both running on the same box, and so the loopback for both of them is the same device. So if you remember 127001, that means this computer. So it's the equivalent to this computer. So they're both on the same computer. When they talk to this computer, it'll work. So the first question is answered. So now it says, can you talk to it from another box? So my desktop or another VM. So let's try that. Well, is this Sue? No, that's Trisha. Let's run it again. We have to run it every time because it's just a one-shot thing. It's not like a sophisticated server. It isn't a sophisticated server. So there I have 8111. It's listening, so my process is running. So now I'm going to try and talk to it from my desktop. So I'm connected over the network, so I have my MOBA Xterm here, and I'm just going to start a local terminal. So this is MOBA Xterm's local terminal, so I'm going to use netcat -v-n 127.0.0.1, and the port is 8111. Now I'm thinking there's a problem already, because when I run, it says connection refused. So, and it was very fast. So when I'm talking to 127001 from my VM, whether it's Sue or Trisha or Sam or Joe or Fozzie, it doesn't matter. If they're on the same computer, when they look to 127001, which is this computer, it's the same computer. But here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to connect to my desktop computer on port 8111, and nothing is running here. So that's why it happened so fast. It's talking to my local computer, and it says connection refused. So the problem with this IP address is that or actually that's the way it was meant to be. It's not a problem, it's actually the way it's meant to be. It only refers to the local box. So no, I cannot talk to my server from somewhere else when it's bound to 127001 because it can't hear or see anything else. So no, I cannot talk to it because we're using the loopback. So the number 3 now, can you run many instances of the server code in the background? Why or why not? Well, I have an idea yet whether this will work or not, but the best thing to do is to try it. Always experiment. So here I know that already one instance, you know what, I'm going to use the P because it'll show my PID. So there you can see there's the PID of the process that I started. Let's try and start another one. And right there, it gives me an error. So what it says is address already in use. So, and when we're saying address here, when we're talking about it, this is a socket address. And and I have to hit enter just to get it to end. So the socket address is composed of the protocol plus the IP address plus the port. And those three together have to be unique. So if I were to use another port, that would make it unique, or another IP address, that would make it unique. But in this case, I cannot bind, it's not unique. It's already used, and I'm trying to start the same thing again. And since it's already used, it won't allow me. So I can't run in many instances of the server code in the background because they are binding to the same protocol, IP address, and port. So that's the first part, connecting to the server.